Hey everyone, tonight we're going to slip quietly into a chapter of bedtime history so bizarre, so decadently unnerving, that you might wonder if your warm blanket is enough armor for what's about to unfold. Imagine candlelight flickering across marble floors, velvet curtains heavy with secrets, and a single woman strolling through vast corridors, whispering to herself about eternal youth, while servants hurry after her, carrying basins far too red for comfort. Yes, tonight we whisper through the twisted legend of those who believe the key to everlasting beauty lay not in herbs or potions, but in warm, stolen innocence. You might think your nighttime routine is strange. Maybe you double check the locks 3 times, or sleep with socks on in summer. But trust me, compared to this, you're practically boring. You probably wouldn't survive 5 minutes in the same castle hallway without fainting dead away from the smell alone. So before you settle back into your pillows, take a second to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy drifting off to unsettling tales like this one. Oh, and while you're at it, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. I want to imagine your cozy corner while I talk you through these corridors dripping with rumor. Now turn off the lights, switch on that soft fan hum, and let's begin tonight's journey together. You tiptoe into a 16th century Hungarian manor, your feet muffled by fur rugs that once belonged to hunting trophies long forgotten. The air tastes faintly of rose oil and damp stone. Somewhere deeper in the mansion, a woman named Elizabeth Bathory laughs behind a locked door, or so they say. Historians agree that Bathory was born in 1560 to one of the most powerful Protestant families in Hungary. Her bloodline boasted kings, warlords, and plenty of rumors that madness skipped along its branches like an eager child. But while nobility gave her riches and a towering fortress named Szejté Castle, it also fed her an appetite for vanity. Legend claims that a single splash of servant's blood on her skin sparked a lifelong obsession. One drop, they say, made her believe she could stay young forever. Was this a dramatic invention by scandal-hungry enemies, or was it Elizabeth herself who encouraged the whispers to keep peasants trembling at her gates? Scholars still bicker over whether the so-called Blood Countess was a monster, a misunderstood noblewoman, or a victim of a patriarchal power grab. Tonight, you stand at her window, peering down at villagers who fear the castle as much as they revere its mistress. They pass under torchlight, hats tipped low, muttering prayers that none of their daughters catch the countess's wandering gaze. Outside your window, a wolf howls, nature's polite reminder that you're not alone in the dark. Inside, candle flames tremble as footsteps echo up the spiral stair. Elizabeth's maidens, some as young as 14, carry cloths and bowls. Their silence is more unsettling than any scream. Your nose catches the iron scent before you see it, a smear along the corridor wall, quickly scrubbed by trembling hands. You wonder if you should keep going, but curiosity drags you closer, like a cat stalking a snake. A creaking door swings open ahead. The room beyond smells of herbs and lavender, meant to hide darker aromas. In a corner, a brass tub steams. If you strain your ears, you swear you hear soft humming. Her voice, drifting from behind a folding screen, as though the bloodletting were nothing more than a bath before bed. Of course, modern historians point out that no solid court records prove Elizabeth bathed in blood. They argue the testimonies were tortured out of frightened servants or fabricated by nobles eager to snatch her vast lands. But truth and rumor hold hands so tightly here that unpicking them feels impossible. You shuffle back, careful not to disturb the hush. A floorboard squeaks, just once. The humming stops. Footsteps approach the screen's edge. You press your back to the cold stone wall, heart hammering like a drum. Did she hear you, or does she hear everyone who ever dared to peer behind her curtains? A laugh floats toward you, soft as silk and twice as suffocating. Stay very still. She loves surprises. Your breath catches in your throat as her shadow dances along the folding screen, slim shoulders, hair unbound, arms lifting as if she's greeting an unseen confidant. You stand frozen, the stones pressing chill into your spine, hoping the flickering candlelight betrays you not. Seconds stretch into centuries, then her voice returns, cooing to herself as if you were never there at all. You inch backward, careful not to disturb a brass basin perched perilously on a stool. You tell yourself it's just warm water. You know better. In the villages below, tales of Elizabeth's beauty travel faster than any armed courier. They say no mirror dared reflect her flaws, no court poet refused to weave her likeness into song. But among farmers and laundresses, her name drips from lips like poison. A noblewoman who exchanged mortal decay for virgin sacrifice. Ironically, many historians believe the real horror was not nightly soaks and gore, but her brutal punishments disguised as discipline. According to surviving letters and ledgers, Elizabeth demanded perfection from her servants. One broken comb, one unpressed gown, and a girl might vanish behind castle walls forever. You shuffle away from the door, heart rattling. You almost laugh, because here you are, time traveler and eavesdropper, worried about footprints on a carpet that's probably seen far worse than your trembling shoes. The passage narrows as you flee deeper into the manor. On your left, a window reveals moonlight tangled in the branches of skeletal trees. On your right, portraits glare, stern ancestors, all sharp noses and eyes that follow your every step. You whisper an apology to the canvas faces. They offer no mercy. Did Elizabeth truly believe blood could cheat time? Science shrugs. A few argue that hemoglobin provides a mild skin stimulant, but the leap from folk medicine to bathtub atrocities is, shall we say, dramatic. Others point out that peasant revolts and a crumbling empire needed a villain more chilling than a spoiled countess with a bad temper. Yet try telling that to the guards who found hidden rooms bricked behind cellar doors. Some stories speak of iron maidens, spiked cages, and tiny cells where the unlucky lingered, forgotten. Of course, this evidence surfaced only after Elizabeth's arrest, convenient timing for conspirators eager to seize her holdings. You pause near a heavy oak door. A draft whispers through its cracks, carrying the faint rustle of parchment. Inside, her private study, stacked with books on alchemy, astrology, and secret recipes from charlatan physicians who promised she'd never age another day. Some were real scientists, some mere quacks, all fueled her hunger for immortality. You slip inside, fingers brushing leather-bound grimoires, your shadow dancing alongside dusty scrolls. A candle flickers to life in your mind. Did she truly believe she was special, chosen by fate to remain untouched by wrinkles and grave dirt? Or was her obsession a final rebellion against a world that prized her only while she stayed beautiful. A soft giggle drifts in from the hallway, curling around your neck like a cold hand. Maybe you should hide. Maybe you should run. But you've come this far, haven't you? You lean closer to her desk, scanning lines penned in a neat, almost childish script. Lists of herbs, names of girls, notes about moon phases. You shiver? Some scholars argue these notes are proof she was no monster, but a woman desperate for control in an era when women had none. They claim the real crime was daring to be powerful, wealthy, and unwed for too long. You tuck this thought behind your ear as the door creaks open once more. Soft steps pad across the study floor. Her perfume arrives before her, a sweetness that masks something metallic beneath. Are you lost? A voice purrs behind you, so close your skin prickles. You've read the rumors. Now you stand in them. You stand very still, eyes fixed on the parchment before you. Faded ink, a blot where she must have pressed too hard in frustration. Behind you, her breath stirs the tiny hairs on your neck, carrying the faintest whisper of rosewater. You want to spin around, face the legend, but some primal part of you knows you don't turn your back on a wolf in its den. I asked, she repeats, each syllable delicate yet barbed. Are you lost, little one? Your lips part, but words betray you. Instead, your mind scrambles for every fact you've gathered. Elizabeth Bathory, fluent in 4 languages, patron of the arts, mother of several children who rarely saw her. In polite society, she dazzled guests with courtly manners and quick wit. But within these thick walls, servants learned to flinch at her silences more than her screams. She drifts closer. You feel her fingers near your shoulder, never quite touching, as if testing your warmth. A chuckle slips past her lips, silvery and cold. Modern scholars still argue whether she was a criminal mastermind or a tragic scapegoat for jealous nobles and church leaders. After all, a wealthy widow with no male guardian was a ripe target for power-hungry relatives. And what better smear campaign than rumors of a woman who bathed in blood? She circles you now, skirts brushing your calf like a cat weaving between legs. Her perfume grows stronger, layered with the sharp edge of iron. You swear the shadows lean closer, eager to see if you survive this audience. Do you know what they say about me? She murmurs, as if you're her confidant, her latest diary page. That I am vain, that I am cruel, that I am eternal. She laughs, one of those soft laughs that lands on your shoulder like a moth, weightless yet unsettling. Her eyes, when they find yours, gleam with something you can't quite name, hunger, or perhaps a loneliness so deep it curdled long ago. The walls of the study seem to close in, heavy with secrets soaked into stone. Here the Countess planned her dinners and punishments alike. One record claims a priest begged her to repent. She smiled and reminded him that gold buys forgiveness as easily as piety does. Outside, the wind rattles the shutters, an uninvited reminder that dawn will come, whether she allows it or not. You wonder, how did it feel for her, night after night, facing her mirror, searching for a wrinkle that dared appear? You flinch as her fingertips graze your jaws. Featherlight, testing your pulse perhaps. A queen of hearts searching for a fresh card. Then, just as suddenly, she pulls back, turning to her bookshelves as if you bore her now. She hums, same tune you heard through the door, a lullaby turned trap. Some historians maintain that she never harmed anyone, that the hundreds of witnesses were bribed or tortured. They argue her greatest crime was being a powerful woman when men decided women should fade quietly into old age. Others say, no, evil drips from her deeds, undeniable and festering behind each stone in Sagete Castle. Your eyes drift to a window. Frost kisses the glass, catching a sliver of moonlight. You swear you see a face reflected there, young, terrified, maybe yours, maybe another forgotten girl who once stood where you do now. Elizabeth's humming stops. Silence swells, thick as blood. She turns one last time, eyes locking yours, her smile both a threat and an invitation. Sleep well, little spy, she whispers, drifting past you like smoke. Beauty demands sacrifice. She vanishes into the corridor, gown trailing secrets behind her. You stand alone in the study, heart thumping. Somewhere below, a servant sobs into her apron. Above, the wind howls through stone battlements that remember everything, true or not. Tonight, you came seeking the truth about the Blood Countess. What you found was a ghost that refuses to die, nourished by rumor, rebellion, and our endless fear of losing youth. And maybe, just maybe, part of you understands. If someone promised you a bath that would keep you untouched by time, would you look away? You step out of her study, mind buzzing with half whispers and the phantom brush of her fingertips on your jaw. Down the hallway, a single candle flickers at the top of a stairwell, daring you to follow. You do, because you're you, drawn to secrets, like a moth to flame, no matter how dark the corners may be. Your footsteps echo as you descend into the castle's lower chambers. Each step creaks, a complaint swallowed by centuries of dust and gossip. You pause at an iron gate. Behind it, a narrow passage snakes toward the old dungeon, the rumored heart of Elizabeth Bathory's private rituals. It's here, historians insist, that fact and fantasy twist so tightly they squeal. Some claim she chained girls to the damp stone walls, their screams muffled by thick oaken doors. Others say that's nonsense, a fiction spun by enemies eager to brand her a demon in petticoats. The only certainty? This castle was a fortress, not just against invading Ottomans, but against truth itself. You run your fingertips over the cold iron bars. The metal hums with forgotten prayers. A sudden draft teases your cheek, carrying a faint metallic tang. You swallow hard and push the gate open. It groans, a dying animal's moan that rattles your ribs. Inside, darkness presses in on your skin like wet wool. You light a torch from a guttering wall sconce. Its flame reveals walls weeping moisture, puddles forming tiny mirrors on the uneven floor. If you listen closely, you swear you can hear faint breathing, though whether it's your own or the past refusing to stay buried, who knows? A rusted chain dangles from the ceiling beam. You duck beneath it, telling yourself this is all rumor. Yet your mind, traitorous as always, supplies visions. Pale skin, pleading eyes, a countess humming as she wipes her hands on a silk handkerchief. Pause. Deep breath. A joke to steady you. Look at you, an unpaid intern for the world's worst spa. If your friends knew, they'd be texting you frantic, get out messages right now. You move deeper into the chamber. Against one wall stands an ancient wooden rack, spikes blunted by time, but still suggestive enough to tighten your throat. There's no record that Elizabeth used the torture devices herself. More likely her guards did, or perhaps they never existed at all. Historians keep poking at each discovery like a dog worrying a bone, but for every document that surfaces, two more contradict it. Yet stories persist. Stories always do. You kneel near a cracked stone basin, half buried in moss. Some say this is where the bloodbaths happened, an idea that later writers, hungry for scandal, embellished into gory bedtime tales. Actual surviving letters rarely mention bathing at all. They describe punishments, yes, but not tubs overflowing with red sacrifice. Still, it's not hard to see how frightened villagers, seeing girls vanish behind the castle walls, might weave a horror from shadows. After all, gossip travels faster than soldiers and lasts longer than tombstones. Above your head, a drop of water plinks into the basin. You watch the ripples spread, a quiet echo of all the lives supposedly lost here for one woman's vanity. Did she smile as she aged, knowing entire generations would whisper her name in disgust and fascination? Or did she curse mirrors that lied to her face, even as candles flickered across her unlined brow? A rat scuttles across your path, its tiny feet a sharp reminder that this place still breathes. You stand, brushing damp dirt from your knees, and tell yourself, one more chamber, one more truth, then you'll climb back to daylight and fresh air. You always say that, don't you? You step through an arched doorway into another corridor. Here the walls are narrower, the air thicker. A single torch casts monster shadows that dance with every flicker. Up ahead, you hear a voice, a man's this time, low and quivering. You follow the sound until you find him, a guard, or what's left of him in your mind's eye. He kneels in chains, praying feverishly. He claims under torture that he saw everything, that he carried buckets where buckets shouldn't exist, that he buried secrets beneath orchard trees no priest ever blessed. And when asked by judges, he recanted, or maybe he didn't, or maybe he died before finishing his tale, depending which historian you trust more after midnight. You close your eyes, leaning against the damp wall. It's so tempting, isn't it, to crave an absolute villain, someone to blame when the world feels cruel. But truth rarely bends to bedtime comfort. Your torch sputters. Somewhere behind you, footsteps echo, too soft for boots, too heavy for rats. You don't turn around, not yet. You stand still, torch in hand, back pressed against the clammy stone, listening. The footsteps pause as if they too are listening, perhaps to your heartbeat hammering against your ribs, louder now than the distant wind rattling the fortress gates. When you finally turn, the corridor yawns empty behind you, just stone and shadow and your own shaky breath misting in the cold. You almost laugh, half from relief, half because you're beginning to understand why rumors never die in a place like this. You continue down the passage, brushing your free hand along the rough wall for balance. Above you, the castle groans under centuries of secrets. Somewhere far off, a door bangs shut, then silence swallows the sound whole. It's easy to forget that Elizabeth Bathory lived in an age when life was short, brutal, and disease devoured the poor before anyone could say the word justice. Nobles like her wielded power with little oversight. Discipline was harsh everywhere. Servants in any wealthy household could be beaten, branded, or worse for the smallest failures. But did Elizabeth cross a line so dark it echoes through nightmares to this day? Or did her enemies paint her a witch because they feared a woman who ruled her estate without kneeling? Historians bicker endlessly. Some cite testimonies claiming dozens of girls were lured to the castle with promises of work, only to vanish. Others point to missing birth records and suspiciously convenient confessions extracted on the rack. You duck through a low doorway and enter what was once the servants' quarters. It smells of damp straw and mold. No blood here, just the ghosts of exhausted girls curled under thin blankets after endless hours of scrubbing floors that could never stay clean enough. A wooden chest sits in the corner. You lift the lid, half expecting it to hiss back at you. Inside, scraps of cloth, a hairbrush missing half its bristles, and a single iron key. You pocket the key because you're you. Why not open one more door in a castle that feeds on your curiosity? Outside these walls, rumors spun Elizabeth into a vampire before Bram Stoker even dreamed up Dracula. Peasants whispered that she drank blood mixed with wine. Pamphlets circulated tales of orgies, witchcraft, and Satan's personal blessing on her porcelain skin. Convenient stories, once you remember her powerful relatives, inherited vast lands the second her name was tarnished. You move deeper into the quarters, your torch flame wavering as if warning you back. But you press on, because something in you still wants to stand in the belly of this legend, to weigh rumor and fact with your own eyes. A sudden draft lifts your hair. You follow it to a narrow stair, curling down, 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 so tight you scrape your knuckles against stone. The air grows colder with each step until your breath drifts in front of your nose like a ghost, leading you onward. At the bottom, you find the hidden chamber, not much bigger than a stable stall, but older than the castle above it. Some scholars argue these cellars predate Bathory by a century, built by prior owners as storage for salted meats and wine barrels. Others swear they were retrofitted into cells when Elizabeth needed secrets to stay very still. Your torch reveals iron shackles bolted into the wall. Rust eats at them now, but once they would have bitten to wrists too thin to fight back. The floor is uneven, stained darker in patches no centuries of lie could scrub clean. You kneel, running your fingers over a carving half buried under grime. A single word, maybe a name, Ilona, or maybe Elena, or maybe your mind invents what it wants to see. You whisper it anyway. For the girls whose names never made it to history books, overshadowed by the woman who may or may not have destroyed them. A creak behind you. A chill kisses your spine. You stand too fast, nearly dropping the torch. In the flicker, you see her again, or the shape of her, slender, watchful, draped in velvet darker than the corridor behind her. You shouldn't be here, the shadow murmurs. Your throat tightens. You want to speak, an apology, a plea, a demand for truth, but all you manage is a ragged exhale. She lifts one pale hand, palm up, as if offering you something you can't quite see. Her eyes, impossible eyes, glimmer with a promise you suspect is more curse than blessing. Then without sound, she turns. You follow because you can't not follow. That is the trap of stories, after all. You follow her shadow through a winding maze of cellars, so old they smell of bones and brine. With each step, Your torch spits and hisses, as if protesting the damp secrets you force it to reveal. Ahead, her velvet hem flickers in and out of sight around corners, leading you deeper until even the wind above seems like a forgotten rumor. You pause at an arched doorway. Beyond it lies a chamber wider than any you've seen so far. The air shimmers with the scent of burning herbs, sage, rosemary, maybe a pinch of myrrh. Flickering lanterns line the stone walls, each flame dancing in rhythm with your pulse. In the center sits an iron cauldron, steam curling from its rim. Surrounding it are wooden tables cluttered with glass vials, dried roots, and scraps of parchment scrawled in looping Latin. It's an alchemist's playground, or a witch's kitchen, depending on who tells the tale. Elizabeth stands beside the cauldron, sleeves rolled to her elbows, stirring with an iron rod as though this were a kitchen recipe and not the stuff of nightmares. She hums softly, her tune weaving through the chamber like smoke. Historians argue whether she truly dabbled in alchemy or merely entertained quacks who promised eternal youth for a price. Some point to letters she wrote to renowned physicians requesting tonics and poultices for unspoiled skin. Others dismiss these as typical noblewoman fuss, vanity no different than modern spa appointments, just dressed in Renaissance superstition. You step closer, drawn by the bitter tang of boiled herbs. Elizabeth does not turn. She speaks as if she's known you forever. "Do you know," she says, voice calm and even, "how many men claim to possess secrets, yet tremble at the sight of wrinkles?" You swallow hard, glancing at the pages scattered across her work table, lists of ingredients, lunar phases, cryptic symbols that make your head ache. Some pages are stained dark at the corners, as if dipped in something thicker than ink. "You seek truth," she says, dipping a ladle into the brew and lifting it just above your eye level. The liquid drips, slow and glistening. But truth is too dull to satisfy hungry tongues. Lies are sweeter, more fragrant. They blossom in gossip and survive centuries. She lowers the ladle, lets it clatter into the cauldron. Her eyes, dark as midnight oil, pin you where you stand. Outside, the world paints her a monster. Inside, she paints herself an artist, crafting illusions, commanding fear, bending peasants and nobles alike to her will. Which is more terrible, you wonder, the possibility that she did these things, or that she didn't, and still carries the curse of legend? She steps toward you, close enough that you see a tiny line at the corner of her mouth, a crack in the porcelain mask. Human, after all. "You wish to know if I bathed in blood," she whispers, "if I drained life to feed my vanity." She touches your cheek with a single fingertip, cold enough to still your lungs. Perhaps I did, or perhaps you did, when you chose to follow me here, to feed your appetite for horror while you lie safe in bed. The room spins. You grip the edge of a table to steady yourself. The herbs, the smoke, her words, they fog your head until even your own reflection, caught in a tarnished copper basin, looks less like you and more like every servant girl who ever dared dream of leaving this place alive. She withdraws her hand. Her smile is a small, exhausted thing. "Scholars will argue long after your bones join mine beneath these stones," she says. "They will bicker over pages and testimonies, and not one of them will taste the real poison. That power, once given to a woman, is a sin men will scrub from history by any means. Behind her, the cauldron bubbles. A single drop splashes onto the stone floor and vanishes as if it never existed. You stumble backward through the haze, torchlight flickering wildly on the walls. Somewhere behind you, she hums again, same tune, same trap, echoing through the corridors long after your footsteps fade. When you burst back into the corridor, the door slams shut behind you of its own accord. Or maybe the castle itself, her true accomplice, decides you've seen enough. Up ahead, daylight seeps through a crack at the top of a stairwell. You run for it, your mind buzzing with every half-truth and question she pressed into your veins. Outside, the wind is so fresh it feels like a baptism. The village sprawls below, roofs clustered like gossiping tongues. Somewhere down there, a mother warns her daughter never to look toward the castle after dusk. And somewhere in that fortress behind you, Elizabeth Bathory remains, monster, martyr, or both, waiting for the next curious soul to ask for bedtime truths that should never be spoken aloud. You stand at the castle's outer wall, the wind tangling your hair, your lungs desperate to replace the thick air of cellars and secrets with the sharp, honest chill of open sky. Far below, the village seems so small, so harmless. Clusters of cottages, threads of chimney smoke rising like prayers that never quite reach heaven. Behind you, stone towers loom, each window a watchful eye. It strikes you then how perfectly the castle is designed, not just to keep invaders out, but to keep truth in. And tonight, you've carried some of that truth out with you, wrapped in rumor, soaked in unanswered questions. As you begin the slow descent down a narrow trail to the village, you can't help but replay what you've seen. The hidden cellars, the cold touch of her fingertip, the half smile that might have been confession or taunt. History rarely leaves witnesses alive, but it always leaves an echo for the curious. At the bottom of the hill, you pass an old well. Villagers say its stones remember the Countess's whispers better than any priest. Children dare each other to lean in and listen for her voice at midnight. You rest your hands on the mossy rim, peer down, just blackness and the faint gurgle of water far below. No voice tonight, just your own reflection staring back. Modern historians debate whether Elizabeth Bathory was the most prolific female serial killer ever recorded, or merely the victim of a perfectly executed political hit job. They argue over dates, numbers, hidden testimonies smuggled from dungeons long demolished. One faction insists over 600 girls disappeared behind her walls. Another says that's an exaggeration, inflated by folklore and greedy relatives. Yet none of their dry papers capture what you felt in that stone corridor. A chill that had nothing to do with the wind and everything to do with the human hunger for immortality. You turn away from the well and continue through the village's narrow lanes. Lantern light flickers behind shuttered windows. Somewhere, a dog barks once, then silence folds the world tight again. You pause by the old church. Its wooden doors stand half open, letting out a wash of candlelight and murmured Latin. Inside, a lone priest kneels by the altar, head bowed so low his forehead nearly kisses the stone floor. In his trembling hands, a rosary twists like a snake refusing to die. Centuries ago, it was this church that blessed the papers condemning Elizabeth. Local clergy, scandalized by her power and wealth, insisted they could cleanse her sins for the right price. Some say the Vatican turned a blind eye while her cousins carved up her lands. Step inside, and you'd see cracked frescoes of saints and martyrs, silent witnesses who never spoke up for the girls who vanished, or the countess who demanded beauty at any cost. You hover at the threshold, an intruder in someone else's prayer. The priest lifts his head just once, eyes catching yours. For a heartbeat, you imagine he sees what you saw: cellars that never dry, chains that never rust, a noblewoman who never ages, because stories keep feeding her. You nod to him, a gesture of apology, or maybe solidarity. He lowers his eyes, fingers moving faster over the beads. His lips form words you can't hear but understand all the same. Some sins outlive their sinners. Outside again, you drift toward the village inn, its sign swaying in the breeze. A battered shield painted with a red deer, the symbol of the Bathory family. Irony never sleeps. You slip inside. The tap room is nearly empty. A lone farmer slumped over his mug, a woman sweeping crumbs into her apron, the hearth crackling as if to chase away everything you dragged down from the castle. You take a seat by the fire, hands spread to the warmth. The innkeeper eyes you from behind the bar, recognition flickering across his face. You wonder if he's heard the stories too, if his grandparents once whispered them into his dreams. The countess who never died, just shifted shape and walked the village roads at dusk, searching for fresh youth hidden behind rosy cheeks. A log pops in the hearth, showering sparks across the stone floor. For a moment, you see her face again, sharp, pale, amused at your need to find answers where maybe none exist. And deep down, you know this is why she endures. Not because she bathed in blood or terrorized a country estate, but because each generation needs her, needs the warning, the thrill, the chill at bedtime. A monster who teaches us that beauty can devour if left unchecked. Your eyelids grow heavy. The warmth, the creak of the inn's beams, the steady drum of rain beginning outside, it all conspires to soothe you at last. Tomorrow you might tell someone what you saw, or you might keep it close, a secret folded beneath your pillow, because truth and legend have learned to share the same bed in Shejte, and you, poor curious you, just tucked yourself in beside them. Sleep teases the edges of your mind, but the inn's soft warmth can't quite hush the echoes of stone corridors and hushed laughter behind locked doors. You close your eyes, trying to drift away from the flicker of torchlight on iron shackles, from the gentle taunt of her voice, reminding you that rumors can outlive any tomb. Yet your mind, traitorous thing, drags you back up the hill. You see the castle again, gray, massive, leaning into the night, like an old conspirator whispering secrets into your ear. And though your body rests by the hearth, your thoughts are already pacing her hallways, peering behind velvet drapes, pressing your ear to her study door. In this waking dream, you slip once more through a hidden passage that villagers claim leads straight to her private bedchamber. Some say it still exists, sealed behind newer stones to keep curious feet away. Others swear the passage was just a tale told by drunken soldiers to frighten camp followers. But here in your mind, you find it easily. A narrow slit in the wall behind a tapestry faded by centuries of moths and mildew. Inside, the passage is so tight your shoulders scrape both walls. You shuffle forward, each footstep stirring dust, that hasn't tasted fresh air since Elizabeth's final days. Ahead, a faint glow leaks through a crack. You press your eye against it, and there she is, alone, seated before a polished mirror taller than she is, candles guttering at its base. Her hair is unbound, spilling down her back like spilled ink. Her hands move over her face, fingertips searching every line and shadow. It's not blood she holds tonight, but a small jar of cream ground from herbs and beeswax. She dabs it beneath each eye, murmuring to herself words too soft for your ear. You wonder if she's praying or bargaining with the reflection that defies her every plea. And for the first time, you see not the monster, not the legend, but the woman. Desperate, tired, shackled not by iron, but by a terror of becoming ordinary. In this small moment, she is more fragile than any girl who ever crossed her threshold. Your breath fogs the crack in the wall. You lean closer, and her eyes flick upward, locking with yours through stone and centuries. A smile curls her lips, but it's not cruel this time. It's knowing, as if she expected you here, as if she invited you long before you ever whispered her name in the dark. A gust of wind rattles the inn's shutter, snapping you awake. Your chair creaks beneath you as you blink at the hearth. Embers now, their glow a tired heartbeat. The innkeeper's wife snores gently in the corner, broom fallen from her hands. Outside, rain taps the windows, like a polite reminder that dawn creeps closer. Somewhere beyond these walls, farmers hitch their carts, wives pour porridge into wooden bowls, children hurry along muddy paths to chapel school. The world spins on, indifferent to ancient sins. You push yourself up, bones protesting from hours spent hunched near the fire. A glance at the mirror behind the bar catches your reflection. Drawn eyes, rumpled hair, a faint smear of ash on your cheek. You smile, sudden and small. No bloodbath, no cruel countess lurking in your shadow. Just you, breathing, more alive than any story ever carved in stone. Historians, you remind yourself, will keep digging up papers, sifting bones, arguing in polite conference halls over whether Elizabeth Bathory was a sadistic predator or a victim of politics and superstition. But none of them will ever stand where you did, nose pressed to that cracked wall, heart stuttering at the sight of fear dressed in velvet. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all truth ever is, the moment you see yourself in the monster and the monster in you. You toss a coin on the bar, more than enough to cover your chair by the fire and the dreams that clung to your coat. Outside, the rain lifts for a heartbeat, the sky a bruised promise of sunrise. You step out, pulling your cloak tight around your shoulders. Behind you, the castle looms, patient, watchful, immortal, not because she ever was, but because you and everyone after you can't stop whispering her name. You smile once more into the mist, a quiet truce between you and the ghost, who even now hums her lullaby across stone walls and bedtime stories. Dawn breaks over the village like a cautious apology, gray at first, then slowly warming to the soft gold that kisses rooftops and cobblestone paths slick from the night's rain. You walk the narrow street away from the inn, boots splashing through puddles that reflect the jagged silhouette of the castle perched forever above. Your mind replays every heartbeat spent in that fortress, the creaking stairs, the iron chains, her breath on your neck, her eyes behind the mirror. You can almost taste the damp stone again, the cold air scented faintly with lavender and something metallic that has no name but lingers in your throat. Villagers begin to appear around you, women carrying baskets of bread wrapped in cloth, old men hunched over walking sticks, a boy herding sleepy goats toward a grassy meadow. They glance your way, but don't stare. They know the castle breeds visitors who leave at dawn with pockets full of questions they'll never dare speak aloud. One old woman, her shawl frayed to threads, pauses by you. Her eyes flick up toward the fortress and then back to you, as if she knows where you've been. "Bad dreams?" she asks, voice brittle but kind. You nod because what else can you do? She nods too, as if you've agreed on an ancient secret. Then she shuffles on, shoes scuffing the wet stones. At the edge of the village stands a small graveyard, each crooked headstone a stubborn defiance against time's hunger. They say some girls who vanished behind Elizabeth's walls were never found. Some whisper that their restless spirits slip down the hill at night, brushing cold fingertips along sleeping villagers' cheeks as a soft reminder, remember us. You lean against the fence, breathing in the damp, the moss, the quiet humility of the dead. Somewhere beyond these graves, the Countess herself was entombed, at least for a while. Her body disappeared during a war or a riot, depending on which gossip you trust. Maybe she's still hidden behind a bricked-up wall, grinning in the dark at every historian who swears they've solved her riddle. You reach down, pick a single wildflower growing through the iron fence, a nod to those whose names history did not bother to carve in stone. Nearby, a local monk tends a grave, humming softly to himself. You wonder if he ever prays for her soul, or if even holy words can't touch a legend so tangled in shadow. Your thoughts drift to the scholars in their libraries, ink-stained fingers, furrowed brows, arguing over faded trial transcripts and contradictory witness accounts. They build their paper castles, brick by brick, hoping each new discovery will finally pin her ghost to the page. But ghosts are slippery things. They prefer whispers, half-truths, bedtime tales told in secret so children won't sleep too soundly. And you, well, you came for the truth and found the deeper truth, that some bedtime stories are not meant to comfort. They exist to remind us that power distorts, beauty fades, and fear makes monsters of us all. You turn your back to the graveyard and to the fortress crouched above it like a stone gargoyle guarding its hoard of rumors. Down the winding road you go, the village shrinking behind you until it's just a memory pressed against your ribs. By nightfall, when you lie in your own bed, miles away from this cold hilltop, you'll close your eyes and still hear her humming, soft as silk, sharp as teeth. But you'll sleep, won't you? Because in the end, all bedtime history promises is this: you get to wake up. She does not. Now, you ease your shoulders back against your pillow. Let your breath soften, your eyes drift to the ceiling, tracing the last flickers of this haunted lullaby. The castle behind your eyelids grows blurry, the torchlight dims, the whispers hush. There is no more stone beneath your feet, only warm blankets, the soft hush of your own steady heartbeat, and the safe embrace of the night that belongs to you alone. With each exhale, let every unanswered question slip through your mind like water through your fingers. Imagine the Countess fades behind a heavy oak door, locks clicking gently into place until she is only a distant echo you can visit again if you choose. She cannot follow you here, not into this hush, this bed, this warmth. Feel your chest rise and fall, slower now, as if each breath stitches you safely into your own quiet legend, one where no shadows linger, no corridors twist under your feet, only dreams as soft as mist drifting over the hills at dawn. If any piece of her remains tonight, let it be a reminder that you are alive, aging, beautifully imperfect, and that this, more than eternal youth, is your freedom. Rest, dream, and wake to the gentle promise of morning light. Hey everyone, tonight we're going to slip away from your buzzing thoughts and wander through soft candlelight and the hidden chambers of ancient palaces. Imagine your fingers trailing along cool limestone walls, the scent of crushed flowers clinging to the air. This is the secret world of Mayan queens, where beauty wasn't just a luxury, but a powerful language of status and divinity. Before you get too cozy, let's be honest. Some of what you're about to hear would make even the toughest influencer today curl up and cry for a dermatologist. You probably wouldn't survive these rituals, so maybe thank your lucky stars you just have a bedtime skincare routine. So before you settle in, take a quick moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I create here for your sleepy mind. And tell me where you're listening from tonight and what time your eyelids are planning to give up the fight. Now switch off the lights, set your fan to its softest hum, and let's drift into tonight's journey together. You stand barefoot on polished stone, feeling the slight stickiness of humidity cling to your skin. In the royal cities of the classic Maya, a queen's day begins before dawn. Her body is not her own, but a living shrine to her people's prosperity. You watch her attendants glide around her chamber, clay bowls of crushed jade powder, carved gourds filled with beeswax mixed with rare tree resins, and baskets of pungent herbs. One maid delicately rubs a thick, gritty paste across the queen's cheeks. It's made from red hematite and crocodile fat, said to keep her skin impossibly smooth under the blazing sun. Historians still debate whether these early face masks were purely cosmetic or laced with symbolic power. Some believe the red hue linked the queen to the sun god's eternal rebirth. Either way, you imagine the mess on your own pillow and decide you'd stick with a 10-minute sheet mask instead. Outside, the city hums awake. Traders chant over obsidian blades. Young scribes scratch glyphs into bark paper books. But behind the carved door of the queen's chamber, time feels slower, heavy with rituals whispered from mother to daughter for centuries. There's a moment where you catch her reflection, polished obsidian mirror propped against a wall, flickering torchlight dancing on her brow. Her eyebrows are plucked so thin they almost vanish, then darkened again with charcoal dust to a graceful arc. Some records hint that the more arched and slender a queen's brow, the more she was revered as a vessel for royal blood. Scholars still fuss over this. Was it a fashion trend or a coded message of political power? Probably both. Mayan life never wasted a good symbol. You notice, too, the soft rattling of a gourd. Inside is crushed cochineal, tiny insects that produce a crimson dye so vivid it later mesmerized European traders. The queen's lips are painted with it daily, and a dab goes on her teeth, giving her smile a slightly blood-tinted glisten. Modern beauty ads might say radiant confidence, but you're guessing you'd skip this step before a Zoom call. One of the lesser-known habits, filing teeth into sharp points. Young noble girls endured this under a jade blade, so when they smiled, their gleaming fangs showed both wealth and bravery. Archaeologists find skulls with perfectly shaped, pointed incisors, like little daggers in the dark. Whether this made kissing awkward is another debate still swirling in dusty university halls. Through the open window, distant drums throb. The queen's attendants slip turquoise beads onto her braids, humming old chants that promise fertility and grace. You, in your soft bed tonight, feel a ghost of those songs drifting through your ears, each note a secret that survived centuries of jungle and ruin. Outside, night vines creep along the palace walls, lizards skitter across carved glyphs, and the queen, prepared and painted, steps into the dawn's first warmth, her beauty a living shield against age, scandal, and the gods' unpredictable whims. Your own face, buried in a pillow right now, has never felt so blessed to be boring. You stretch your legs a little, feeling your muscles loosen as your mind drifts deeper into this hidden palace life. The queen stands at the heart of a courtyard now, warm stone beneath her feet, sun climbing slow and heavy through layers of mist. Every pair of eyes, from scribes to warriors, watch her glide past. Her skin must shimmer with oils made from crushed cacao butter and rosewood sap. Some texts say these natural balms didn't just soften the skin, but protected it from biting insects and harsh tropical winds. You'd probably pay good money for that bug repellent today, wouldn't you? Now lean closer. A servant brings out a small stone dish, inside which squats a fat, wriggling worm. It's a botfly larva. Don't flinch. Royal healers believed that letting these larvae burrow slightly under the skin drew out bad humors and poison from mosquito bites. Historians still argue over this. Was it an accidental folk remedy or a practiced ritual detox? You hope it's the first, because imagining dozens of queens purposefully nurturing tiny parasites under their royal skin makes your stomach do a quiet flip. Nearby, a young princess mimics her mother's calm. Her forehead is pressed with a warm jade roller. Yes, your modern version has fancy packaging, but here jade has always symbolized purity and blood. Attendants chant softly as they pass the cool stone across her brow, hoping to chase away headaches and restless thoughts. Some nights, when the jungle drums fall silent, the queen submits herself to an ancient cleansing. Sweat baths. Not a dainty bubble soak, but a stone sweat lodge heated with burning copal resin. Inside, the air thickens with herbal smoke and steam, pores open, and toxins melt away, or so they believed. You can almost feel your pores sigh at the idea, but imagine sitting cross-legged on hard stone, surrounded by strangers in near darkness, inhaling hot air so heavy it leaves your throat raw. Not exactly a luxury spa, right? One beauty custom still puzzles experts: elaborate forehead flattening. Mayan nobles, especially royal children, had their soft infant skulls bound between two wooden boards, creating a graceful, sloped forehead, a mark of noble birth. You can picture scholars tapping skulls at museum exhibits, still debating, was this purely aesthetic or a status shield to separate elite from peasant? Either way, it worked. Only the highborn bore the signature flattened dome. And here you are, clutching a memory foam pillow like it's the height of comfort. The queen's hair, oh, the hair, long, thick, black as a moonless night, washed with mixtures of ash and plant oils, then perfumed with crushed flowers and rare seeds. To touch it was forbidden. To braid it was an honor only her closest maids earned through loyal service and silence. Sometimes they tucked fragrant bits of vanilla orchid into the coils, a scent that whispers through your thoughts tonight, gentle and sweet. And if you ever wondered how royal garments smelled in this steamy climate, imagine layers of musky copal smoke, crushed marigold petals, and the faint tang of sweat under jade necklaces. Not exactly your fresh laundry scent, but for them each aroma tied the queen to the gods above and the underworld below. As shadows creep up the courtyard walls, a priest appears. He checks her ornaments, turquoise, jade, rare shells strung into a necklace heavy enough to bruise her collarbones. Each beat a prayer, a debt paid, a promise of fertility whispered to the moon. You sense the burden now. Beauty was never a vanity here. It was sacrifice, a display of wealth, and a pact with the divine. You lie there now, staring at the ceiling, or maybe half lost behind your eyelids, feeling the ghosts of warm stones under your back, the touch of perfumed oils on your skin. Somewhere far away, a queen stands tall against a world that demands she stay perfect until the last drumbeat fades. Sleep whispers that your soft blanket is a better crown than any jade diadem tonight. Your breath deepens as you follow her steps deeper into the palace, where the day's heat clings to the walls like a secret. By now, the queen's face glows beneath delicate streaks of paint, patterns drawn with crushed annatto seeds, a vivid red dye that modern chefs might sprinkle on rice, but that ancient artists smeared on flesh as a sacred ink. You imagine dipping your finger into that same powder today and chuckle softly. What would your neighbors think if you answered the door with a ceremonial sunburst painted across your cheeks? Inside her private chamber, a small pool gleams under flickering torches. It's no ordinary bath. Beneath the water, flat stones line the floor, heated by embers fed through clever underground channels. The queen steps in slowly, attendants pouring bowls of flower petals and ground cocoa. The warm water softens her painted skin. The petals coat her in sweet perfume that clings long after she emerges. Historians still puzzle over whether this chocolate bath served more than indulgence. Some argue it was a ritual to bond her spirit to the fertility goddess Ixchel. Others insist it was simply an elite luxury. You shrug to yourself. Maybe it was both. If you had endless cacao, wouldn't you soak in it too? One young servant, eyes downcast, approaches with a small jade knife. Here comes a detail that might make you hug your soft blanket tighter. The queen extends her tongue, and the servant pricks it, drawing tiny beads of blood that drop into a carved bowl. This act, bloodletting, was her royal duty, a way to feed the ancestors and keep the gods from turning their backs on her people. It's not the usual spa treatment you'd find at a five-star resort, is it? Scholars endlessly debate how often this happened. Some claim it was daily. Others argue it was reserved for special moon phases. Either way, your own bedtime ritual probably feels tame now. Just a mug of tea and a phone screen turned dark. You listen as distant thunder trembles through the jungle canopy. The night is thick, heavy with secrets. By now, the queen's bath is done, her skin rubbed dry with linen woven by village women miles away, tribute paid in labor rather than gold. She stands before a small altar, eyes fluttering half shut, whispering to gods older than the carved pyramids outside her window. Every so often, she drinks a bitter draught brewed from cacao, chili peppers, and ground wildflowers. This royal drink isn't your cozy bedtime hot chocolate. It's spicy enough to sting the tongue and jolt the senses. Some believe it kept queens alert through long rituals. Others say it fueled visions during prayer. You wonder if a double espresso would do the same job today. In the corner, her consort waits quietly, a nobleman in carved jade jewelry, body painted with streaks of black soot, a symbol of both power and submission to her rank. When the priests finish their chants, she lifts her chin and gazes at him, an unspoken command flickering in the candle's trembling light. This union tonight isn't about romance. It's about ensuring a lineage that ties human flesh to divine purpose. You hear laughter echo faintly outside the chamber, children still awake, giggling in the courtyard. Life always pushes through, no matter how heavy the crown. In your own quiet room now, sheets tangled around your legs, you think of her for a heartbeat longer. A woman painted, perfumed, and pricked in ways you'd never accept today, all to keep her people safe from drought, hunger, or war. A walking prayer wrapped in hummingbird feathers and dreams of rain. A queen whose beauty was never just hers to own. Your eyelids flutter. The story settles warm against your thoughts like a cloak. Soon, the drums fade, the candles burn low, and the jungle slips back into shadow. Sleep well tonight, glad you won't wake tomorrow, needing your tongue pricked or your teeth sharpened. Sometimes, boring is beautiful. The hush of night drapes over your shoulders as you sink deeper into this labyrinth of carved stone and secret gardens. By now, you've walked so far beside the Mayan queen that the scent of her hair feels as familiar as your own breath. But there's more to her beauty than paint and perfume, much more hidden behind walls the jungle tried to devour but never fully erased. You tiptoe into her herbal courtyard, where the moonlight catches rows of clay jars. Each jar holds a concoction your local pharmacy would lock behind a counter: rattlesnake fat for sore joints, fermented honey to soothe wounds, and the sap of the copal tree, sticky and fragrant enough to cleanse both skin and spirit. In the queen's world, a blemish wasn't just bad luck, it was an omen, a sign that perhaps the gods were displeased. So an entire household of healers fussed over every freckle and rash, armed with plant secrets whispered through generations. You pause by a bowl where fresh chili peppers soak in a dark, oily liquid. According to some dusty codex pages, this fiery infusion was dabbed lightly onto the skin to encourage blood flow and youthful glow. Imagine your morning moisturizer burning like a jalapeno salsa. Makes that tingling serum in your drawer seem gentle, doesn't it? Historians squabble over how widespread this practice really was. Some suspect the royal court kept the spiciest secrets to themselves, passing them from one crowned head to the next. Beyond the courtyard, a stone path curls through a maze of raised gardens, true beauty beds, if you will. Here grow fragrant marigold, calming passion flower, and the prized vanilla orchid. You see the queen's hands brushing the soft petals as she walks, collecting blossoms that will later be mashed into oils or tucked into braided hair. Vanilla, you realize, wasn't just dessert flavor for her. It was a symbol of sensuality and status, worth more than its weight in precious stones. One strange fact tickles your curiosity. Some glyphs hint that royal women used ground fireflies to make their skin shimmer faintly in moonlight ceremonies. Imagine stepping into a torchlit hall, your shoulders dusted with natural bioluminescence, glittering like a living constellation. Scholars still can't agree whether this was literal or symbolic. Did queens really glow like fireflies? Or was this poetic flattery from court scribes desperate to please? You roll the thought around your mind as you sink further under your covers, picturing yourself glowing for a night, then scrubbing it off with a sigh before bed. Inside the palace's main hall, the queen sits on a carved wooden throne, high-backed and draped with jaguar pelts. Beneath her feet, smooth river stones keep her posture regal. Here, beauty and politics dance as one. Every braid in her hair, every shell hanging from her earlobes, signals alliances and treaties, promises wrapped in silk and scented oil. When rival emissaries arrive, they stare not just at her eyes, but at her tattoos, subtle swirling lines inked behind her ears and along her collarbone. These hidden designs, drawn with obsidian blades and plant dyes, mark lineage and hint at sacred power. You lift your sleeve in the dark, comparing your own ink, maybe a simple flower or a motivational quote, to hers, and laugh softly. Hers could mean the difference between peace and war. Outside, thunder murmurs again, rolling over the jungle canopy. The queen nods to her attendants, who bring fresh clothes scented with crushed mint leaves and bright yellow achiote paste. The fabric clings lightly, dyed with natural colors, so vivid they rival tropical parrots. Another argument for the historians. Were these dyes purely decorative or part of sacred identity? Some say the deeper the dye, the closer to heaven's favor. Others dismiss it as royal vanity painted on coarse cotton. You shift under your blanket, toes curling as if you too could feel the breeze from palace doors swinging wide. The queen rises, her chin high, skin scented like a midnight garden, eyes steady as she commands a world too heavy for any crown. Tonight, your world is just this soft bed and this drifting story. No jade earrings dragging your lobes down, no cochineal insects crushed for your lips. Just the quiet truth that sometimes forgetting old beauty secrets is a gift in itself. The palace drums thud once more, and sleep reaches out its hand to brush your brow, softer than any sacred jade roller. You drift even further now, pulled along moonlit corridors, where stone jaguars crouch silently, guarding stories older than your oldest bedtime memory. Somewhere behind those carved eyes, the Mayan queen's secrets press on, pulsing with life despite the centuries peeling away like old paint. Tonight, she prepares for a moon ritual, one that villagers will whisper about for days while grinding maize in the courtyards. You slip behind her like a shadow, watching as her favorite attendant brushes a thick, dark paste over her hands and feet. Made from charcoal, crushed herbs, and sticky pine resin, this black coating is said to ward off wandering spirits jealous of her beauty. Some historians claim it was more superstition than spiritual armor. Others insist it gave her skin a smooth, polished gleam under torchlight, a sly trick to make her appear more ethereal when she stepped onto the temple's stone steps. Next, a shallow bowl arrives, steaming with an herbal brew, infused with crushed cacao nibs, mint, and bits of crushed obsidian. She lifts it to her lips, careful not to smear the red cochineal dye, already perfect on her mouth. This bitter drink cleanses her breath and stirs her senses awake, ready for hours of prayers and offerings. You taste phantom bitterness at the back of your throat and thank your stars your night beverage is something simple, maybe a chamomile tea instead of a volcanic rock smoothie. She turns now, and you glimpse the fine lines inked just under her jawline, small triangles and circles, symbols some scholars say mimic constellations seen on harvest nights. Others argue they mark clan alliances, etched into flesh so betrayal was impossible to hide. Either way, you find your fingertips brushing your own neck, feeling the soft pulse beneath. No ink for you tonight, only the gentle hum of your breath slowing to match hers. Out in the courtyard, a group of girls, noble daughters, and junior priestesses sit cross-legged on woven mats. Each holds a tiny mirror of polished obsidian, reflecting flickers of firelight and wide, blinking eyes. They trace lines across their cheeks with clay sticks dipped in berry juice, copying their queen's ritual markings. For them, beauty isn't just about looking lovely. It's a way to practice discipline, patience, and spiritual devotion. A single sloppy line means starting over. You can almost hear the giggles when someone messes up and has to wipe her face clean with a scrap of woven cloth. A detail to make your eyebrows rise. One old manuscript hints that some queens pressed small, delicate fish bones into their skin just below the eyes. The tiny pricks cause slight swelling, creating a subtle puff that in their time symbolized healthy abundance. Modern beauty fillers might feel less fishy, but the idea isn't so far apart, is it? Scholars keep bickering over whether this was common practice or an isolated court's eccentric fancy. Either way, you breathe out a grateful sigh that tonight your face is safe from sharp bones. Thunder rolls again, closer this time, as if the old gods still listen from the clouds. A gentle rain taps at the temple roof. Somewhere beneath that stone ceiling, the queen lifts her arms skyward. Her fingers drip with flower oil. Her wrists clink softly with jade bangles. She whispers old words to Ixchel, the moon goddess, asking for protection from sickness, betrayal, and drought. You wonder if she sometimes wished to be plain, free of duty, just a woman laughing at a joke with her hair unbound and her cheeks unpainted. But here, every droplet of rain on her brow carries the weight of a kingdom. You curl deeper under your covers, listening for rain on your own window. Maybe it's there, maybe it's only your imagination now weaving shadows and whispers through the hum of your fan. But one thing is certain, somewhere in the tangle of vines and stone ruins, echoes of these beauty rituals still cling like wet petals, refusing to fade completely. You, though, you slip further toward dreams, your own face untouched by charcoal paste or obsidian ink. Lucky, lucky you. Listen closely now, your eyelids heavier, your thoughts a slow, warm river. The queen moves deeper into her temple, and you drift right behind her shadow. Stone torches flicker, casting dancing shapes on murals painted in colors still bright enough to shame the centuries. Here, among sacred walls, her final preparations unfold before the moon climbs high. She sits cross-legged on a woven mat stitched by village hands, the floor cool and speckled with petals dropped by careless servants. Before her lies a small obsidian bowl. Inside, finely ground crushed pearls, river clay, and an extract squeezed from night-blooming flowers. She dips 2 fingers in and smooths this paste along her neck and shoulders. It dries into a chalky layer that keeps insects at bay, but more than that, it turns her skin pale under torchlight, a ghostly sign of purity. The court scribes noted this ritual so often that historians still squabble over whether it was practical, symbolic, or both. Some even believe this whitening paste signaled her readiness to speak directly with spirits of her ancestors, like a mask to blur the line between living flesh and the echoing dead. You wrinkle your nose, picturing your nightly moisturizer rebranded as a ghostly disguise. Trendy? Perhaps not. Effective? Well, you're not about to try it tonight. Suddenly, the low hum of a conch horn trembles through the temple halls. The queen's eyes flutter open. An elder priest, bent like an old tree, approaches her with a small pouch made from jaguar hide. Inside, dried hallucinogenic morning glory seeds. She will chew these slowly, the bitterness twisting her tongue, the visions teasing at the edge of her mind. Royal records whisper that such visions guided her decisions on crops, wars, and marriage alliances. A ruler half in this world, half in the next. You watch her jaw work gently, lips moving in silent prayer as her gaze slides past the flickering torch and lands on you, well, not you exactly, but the countless faces she must imagine every night. Farmers waiting for rain, children needing medicine, soldiers dreaming of peace, all pressed into her painted skin like invisible tattoos. It's said that if a queen's visions were false, famine would follow, rivers would dry, and enemies would encircle the city like starving dogs. So no pressure, right? You sink deeper into your bed, certain that your own late-night decisions, another cookie, or one more episode, feel gloriously insignificant by comparison. Another odd whisper from the past. Some stone carvings show queens wearing delicate nose piercings made from butterfly wings pressed between thin slices of jade. Fragile, beautiful, and so easily broken. Scholars flip through old codices, trying to prove whether this was daily wear or ceremonial fancy. Either way, the image stays with you. This woman, equal parts steel and silk, drifting through a world that demanded she shine until the gods themselves turned away. Outside, rain thickens, drumming on leaves larger than your head. In the flickering shadows, the queen rises. Her mouth tastes of bitter seeds. Her veins hum with secret knowledge only she can bear. Attendants slip a final robe over her shoulders, woven cotton dyed deepest indigo, embroidered with tiny bone beads. Each bead marks a royal ancestor, each stitch a promise that her beauty is not hers alone, but a contract signed in blood and breath. She lifts her arms to the carved ceiling, eyes rolled skyward. Soft chants rise, bounce against the stone, and slip through the cracks into the wet jungle beyond. She becomes less woman, more storm, more myth. Somewhere out there, a jaguar pads silently past her temple, unaware it's become a symbol carved into her jewelry, painted on her skin, woven into her dreams. You, safe in your cocoon of sheets and silence, watch her final ritual and exhale. The queen, the jungle, the storm, they all blur as your mind drifts toward sleep. No paint, no parasites, no butterfly wings for you tonight. Just the hum of your fan and the comfort that tomorrow Your face will be your own. Rest now, knowing she never could. The night has pulled you so close now, your breath soft, your thoughts no longer crisp, but blurred like a candle seen through heavy rain. Yet even here, the Queen's story threads itself through your dreams, asking you to linger just a little longer in her hidden chambers before you drift fully away. Tonight, in this final stretch of moonlight, she steps away from the stone halls and into her private garden, a walled oasis carved right out of the steaming jungle. You feel your bare feet sink into damp earth behind her, catching the hum of insects and the sweet sharpness of blooming night jasmines. Here, beauty is not painted or powdered, but breathed in with every petal, every leaf brushed by her fingertips. In a corner of this garden sits an ancient stone basin, half swallowed by roots of a ceiba tree. It's said this basin holds water, touched by the gods, rain collected drop by drop, guarded by silent servants. The Queen kneels, cupping her hands to splash this cool blessing across her cheeks, washing away the night's paste and the day's sweat. Scholars bicker endlessly about this ritual cleansing. Was it truly divine water, or simply the cleanest source in a city choked by heat and dust? They may never agree, but here under your covers, you decide it was both. A secret spring and a whispered promise to stay pure for one more dawn. A flicker of mischief still dances in these rituals, even now. For instance, a dusty mural discovered deep in a ruined palace hints that some queens snuck bits of crushed cacao into love potions, tiny cups offered to their chosen kings or rival nobles to bend hearts like reeds in the wind. Whether it worked is anyone's guess, but imagine slipping that trick into your next awkward date. One sip, and you'll adore me forever, or at least until breakfast. The historians argue if this was real power or playful gossip from bored scribes, but the thought of it tickles your sleepy grin anyway. At the garden's edge lies a patch of marigold and aloe, plants both sacred and practical. The Queen's attendants gather armfuls every dawn to brew balms that cool sunburns and soothe insect bites. This might sound ordinary, but in a world where every mark on her skin whispered rumors of disease or witchcraft, even a humble aloe leaf could mean the difference between a throne held tight or lost in whispered conspiracies. You trace your own arm, thinking how strange to fear a single blemish more than an enemy's knife. Now imagine this. The Queen, done with prayers, tilts her head back, hair loose at last, and lets a gentle slave girl brush it strand by strand, each stroke slow, steady, tugging out knots formed by the weight of crowns and worry. No jade comb tonight, just fingers and patience. Some chronicles claim queens believed that nightly hairbrushing released bad dreams and called good visions to roost like doves at dawn. Whether you believe it or not, the thought itself feels warm against your temples now. One final oddity, old bones dug from the deepest temple layers reveal tiny beads hidden inside royal burial wraps. Some of these beads are made of seashells from distant shores, others carved from bones of hummingbirds. Scholars scratch their beards over this. Did the queens wear them alive as secret charms, or were they sewn into final shrouds to guide their souls through the underworld? There's no consensus, only the soft hush of theories in dark museum halls, while you, wrapped in your blanket, feel the weight of centuries pressing gently against your chest like a lullaby. The garden darkens as dawn nudges the sky. The queen stands now, skin damp but clean, eyes wide and ancient, with dreams too large for this stone city to hold. Somewhere far away, a rooster cries. Somewhere closer, a torch sputters and dies. And you, caught in the hush between her world and your own, sink deeper into the soft velvet of sleep, grateful that your own dreams demand nothing but your quiet surrender. Rest, knowing she rises to fight again tomorrow, while you, blessed in your modern bed, carry only the faint perfume of her forgotten beauty secrets drifting through the last edges of your waking mind. Dawn is nothing but a rumor at the palace's edge, a pale breath brushing your eyelids as the last folds of her hidden world slip deeper into your drifting mind. Here in this soft between place, you follow her back inside, feet brushing cool stone, jasmine petals caught between toes, the air thick with last night's burnt copal clinging to the walls. You find her again at a low table carved with serpent motifs. Spread before her, small bowls of powdered jade, obsidian flakes, and dried herbs so pungent you almost wrinkle your nose, even tucked warm in your bed far away. Her loyal attendants mix these powders with oil pressed from avocado seeds, stirring until it gleams like wet river mud. This is her final mask, a closing ritual before sleep claims her royal bones. She dips her fingers, smooths the paste over her cheeks, her forehead, the slope of her nose. The scent is sharp but comforting, a signal to the old gods that their daughter still guards her beauty, even in dreams. Some clay glyphs hint that this mask wasn't just for softness. It repelled evil spirits said to roam the corridors at dawn's first hint. Scholars debate, of course, superstition or practical skincare. The lines blur in these stories, where everything must do double duty: protection and preservation, magic and medicine. Outside her chamber, the palace quiets. Traders packing up their stalls, sleepy guards rubbing their eyes with calloused knuckles, a lone dog sniffs at the base of a temple stair. The queen's chamber is a heartbeat sealed from all this bustle, a breath held back by walls painted with ancestors' eyes. Here, she is no goddess on a throne, no painted idol for the people to praise. She is just a woman seeking one last moment of peace before the sun claws her back into duty. One more curious whisper to drift across your thoughts. Ancient stone tablets sometimes show royal women using ground mica. Yes, that shiny mineral you know from eyeshadow palettes, to coat their eyelids and collarbones. By firelight, this gave her a faint shimmer, an otherworldly glow meant to dazzle visiting envoys or rival queens. Some historians roll their eyes at the idea, but enough shards of mica have been found in old palace ruins to stoke the argument endlessly. You smile at the thought. Makeup tutorials 1,000 years before ring lights and influencers. Her mask dries, cracking slightly as she lifts her arms above her head, stretching muscles stiff from golden necklaces and endless bows of greeting. A young servant, barely more than a girl, slips behind her to untangle thick braids. Each braid unwound is a knot of tension released, a day's worth of royal burdens melted back into her scalp. You feel this too, your own shoulders dropping deeper into your pillow, as if your hair were being gently combed by ancient, careful fingers. Then comes a hush, something deeper than silence. The queen presses her forehead to a carved idol of Ixchel, the moon goddess who holds women and secrets alike. In that bow, she gives away every fear she cannot speak aloud. The droughts that threaten crops, the whispered conspiracies between rival priests, the ache in her bones that no herbal balm soothes completely. One final detail floats up for you to taste in this sleepy twilight. When death came, as it must for all, royal women were often wrapped in layers of cotton dyed red and sprinkled with powdered jade. Some tombs hold fragile shells arranged in spirals at their feet, a roadmap, say the elders, to help the soul find its way home through the underworld's 9 perilous rivers. Whether you see this as myth or practical funeral ritual, it paints a picture richer than any bedtime fable. You listen now to your own breath, steady, soft, free from prayers whispered into the stone. She has given you her secrets, so you might hold them gently as you fade into dreams. A garden lit by fireflies, a face painted red with sacred powder, a crown made not of gold, but of duty, and 1,000 silent sacrifices. Tomorrow, your pillow will carry no scent of copal or crushed marigold, only the faint memory of a queen who glowed even when no one was watching. And you, dear dreamer, get to wake without a kingdom pressing down on your shoulders. Sleep is a crown you wear tonight, weightless, invisible, entirely your own. So here you are, so close to sleep that even your thoughts feel wrapped in gauze. Yet the Queen's story hums on, threading its last secrets through your drifting mind like a final braid woven just for you. The moon, swollen and watchful, hangs above her courtyard now. The Queen, no longer layered in ceremony, but soft and bare-faced, steps outside one last time before dawn. Her attendants have vanished into shadows. Only you linger, invisible yet somehow seen by her steady eyes. She walks barefoot along a path strewn with flower petals. Each step crushes the scent of jasmine and marigold into the warm earth. Some old stone scribes wrote that a queen's final ritual of the night was to return her beauty to the garden that gave it. Every oil, every pigment, every crumb of precious powder washed from her skin now soaks into the roots, feeding tomorrow's blooms. A living cycle of woman and soil, body and temple. Scholars still argue whether this was literal devotion or a poetic way to record hygiene habits, but tonight, truth and legend hold hands under the moon. At the far edge of the courtyard, a stone basin catches rainwater, still cool even in the sticky night. She leans over it, cupping the clear surface with her palms, watching her reflection shimmer back, a face that rules and obeys, commands and pleads, adored yet never truly hers alone. You catch your own ghost in this mirror, eyes blinking in the dark, safe in a world that asks less of your skin and soul. Another soft truth. In royal chambers discovered centuries later, archaeologists found tiny pouches tucked beneath floor stones. Inside, bits of hair, slivers of fingernail, and scraps of cloth, pieces of queens kept hidden to guard against curses and betrayals. Some say these secret stashes were protection. Others whisper they were love charms or tokens of forbidden magic. The scribes left no clear answer, so scholars tilt their glasses and debate under dusty lamplight while you sink deeper, knowing you'd rather hide a chocolate bar under your bed than bits of yourself under stone. The Queen kneels now, palms pressed to the earth. A whisper, nothing more than breath and heartbeat, threads through her lips. She promises her ancestors she will rise again tomorrow, painted and perfumed, fierce and fragile all at once. She begs the rain to come, the crops to grow, the gossip to stay quiet until she no longer cares. You wish, for her sake, she could stand up just once as only herself, a woman without ink and jade and sacrifice braided into her scalp. But this is her burden and her power, and yours is softer, to lie here, warm and safe, carrying the ghost of her secrets gently into sleep. A breeze catches her hair, lifts it like silk behind her. Somewhere, a frog croaks, a jaguar sighs in the distant vines. Dawn tiptoes closer, unwinding the last of her shadows. The queen stands, wipes her wet palms against her thigh, and turns back toward her stone walls, her endless throne, her people who dream because she does not. You, however, are free to close your eyes, to drift away untouched by crocodile fat and cochineal dye, unburdened by temples and treaties, blessed by the gift of being ordinary and alive. Sleep now, dreamer. Let the flowers reclaim the night. Let the queen slip back into her garden, her throne, her myths. Hold nothing but the hush in your chest and the hush at your window. Breathe slowly now. Feel how your chest rises and falls like a gentle tide. Let the images melt. Jade combs, painted skin, ancient stone softened by moss and time. Let your mind drift beyond the jungle vines, beyond the drums and whispers, beyond the queen's quiet footsteps fading into dawn. Here in this calm space, you are weightless. You are no longer visitor nor witness, only a soft presence floating between dreams. Let your shoulders drop deeper into your pillow. Imagine warm, sweet air brushing your cheeks, an invisible balm, better than any forgotten royal ritual. Your thoughts slow to match the pulse in your temples. Every breath carries away the last worry clinging to the corners of your mind. With each exhale, the hush thickens, wrapping you in silk shadows. You do not need the gods to guard you tonight. No charms under your bed, no sacred masks on your skin. Only this moment, this slow drift toward a sleep that asks for nothing but your trust. If echoes of the queen visit you later, let them pass like mist on morning vines, gentle, distant, leaving only a faint sweetness behind. You have kept her story safe for a while. Now she curls back into the ruins, waiting for another moonlit heart to listen. In this last hush, you are whole, you are enough, and you are free to close your eyes completely. Good night.